All right. I need to do more social media for my business, and I think this is kind of a perfect opportunity. I'm also trying to figure out this new camera track thing. It's not working. All right. What's up, man? Uh, I love that I'm here in Texas, you're in the Bay Area, and we're both trying to do really similar things with our house independently, and we're both facing individual challenges. So here's my thoughts on it. Here's what I'm trying to do with my house. Also, this has changed and probably will change. I knew I needed to reside the house a couple of years ago, and the houses around here, like yours, there's no real shear on any of the walls. Texas kind of hopscotches. They like do it, don't do it, do it, don't do it. The products that they use, I just don't love them. So they degrade really easily. So I initially looked into Zip 2. I was going to do Zip R6 2 years ago, and then the prices were fluctuating a lot, and now way too cost prohibitive. It's too expensive. And I got to finish this thing. I can't just, you know, live in terrible renovation indefinitely. It's got to come a point where, you wrap these things up. So I get where you're at, because I'm in literally today the same boat. Uh, so I'm in my bedroom slash office, because again, renovations run a long time. I get you're trying to move into the house, and in the video you shared, I'm also trying to put this on YouTube in the hopes that like people can comment and go, that's a great idea, I would do it this way, you're a moron. I'm really hoping people do. I know I don't have any following, but share this with your contractor friends, see what they think. So you got your wall, you got your window, it's already installed. You got you're in drywall phase, so you got your drywall. And you don't know what to do with kind of this area right now. So it sounded like you wanted to drywall into the window buck and drywall this up. When you sent the video, it looked like you have some really good flashing tape before you put the window in. And, like a lot of people, you're worried about moisture, because I tell my clients all the time, water is very patient. Water will just find a way. So I like that we had the let water out versus keep water out discussion. And I guess here's kind of my thing right now. You got your wall, you got your drywall, you got your window. You want to drywall this in, and then, right now, you got your window, you got your flange, and you can't really see that, and then your window installer made a pretty aggressive cut on the original siding of the house, which is getting replaced to install the window. So when I looked at that, I went, oh, he's cutting out a lot of room so you can go with a really nice exterior casing. I really like exterior casings, especially on like brick window or brick houses, stone houses. It just really helps with the remodelability. Things are going to happen. Argon fails all the time. You're in a seismic zone, a window might crack or break. I don't like it when I show up on a job and we have to go with a retrofit window, because it's all about, to me, how are we trying to maintain that control layer? Like, a lot of times they're great until they're disturbed. So if we can not disturb them, that's great. And that's where retrofits come in, but then you gotta, cut out the inside and put the new window in. I think it leaves a lot of air gaps. In certain situations, that's all you got. Fine, do it, because that's just, you do the best you can with what you have. We don't have unlimited budgets here. But for future remodelability, I really like exterior casings. So I think that's what your window installer was thinking. I don't know, because I wasn't there. But that's what I would do. I would take, you get your window now, you get your flange. I don't know if this is gonna work. I can do this, but you put your, you want your window casings to fill in that space. Ooh, there it is. And then you come down here and do your thing. And you got that really nice, I want to say 50s style bungalow. I love them. I love Craftsman. I love those kind of looks. For this, window casings, flashing details, they can get meticulous. And I would really look up, I got some notes on my computer because my terrible memory. I would look up R&R Buildings. He's in the Midwest. The principles that he uses for flashing details, I think, are universal to all markets. He does such a great job of showing, like, this is how you cut this is how you do that, this is how this should overlap over this way, this is the way, like, on the ends you dam it in, so that way the water's not running off the side and coming back in. This is how you kick the water out around a window. He's got a couple different videos on window flashing details in different scenarios. Great job. The other, there are 2 channels, but it's one guy. He's in Houston. He does, hang on, let me look here. He does brick house design build and high performance HVAC design. I think he does a great job explaining where he's coming from, why he's coming from, what he's doing. I'll look up some of his videos. But so, eventually, what color do I have? We'll go red. So if you, in a perfect world, you would have ripped off all your siding, you would have put your sheathing on the outside, you would have put your, vapor control layer and moisture control layer. A lot of people don't talk about them separately, but they are, depending on, we get technical, the perms of the infusion and everything else. I like having, in the South and in a climate like yours, out here, here's your exterior. I want vapor and water to stop here, because humidity eventually brings vapor in. So, it's gonna, cold drives to hot, wet drives to dry. When the exterior is moist, this happens a lot with masonry claddings. The sun hits it, it looks dry on the outside, but it's just shoving that moisture in. And eventually that moisture is going to find its place. Which is why, this is up, down. You want to leave a small bit here open to allow that moisture to come out. If you're going to pull your windows when you do your sheathing and your siding and everything, and then kind of like completely redo all this work, that's an added expense. It's better. I don't know if it's necessary. So there's a couple things you can do. The other thing too is if you want to get into drywall now and you want to finish out this area and this window buck and make it the best you can today. If you're going to pull your windows when you do your exterior cladding and whatever rain screen and whatever vapor or moisture control layer you're going to do, I wouldn't use zip tape here. Zip tape's awesome. That stuff sticks, like sticks. And it's a real nightmare to get off. You want it to stick. So if you're going to pull your windows to do all this later, it's going to be a problem. It really just is. So if you're not going to pull your windows and you have this, you want to add your sheathing, you want to add a rain screen, you want to let water out. I know there's a lot of people that say, you can't do that, you shouldn't do that. I think you could get away with it. I really do. And here's why. If you pay attention to your details, like you keep your window like this, and your sheathing is going to come down here, and it's going to stick out. And then you have a flashing, comes like this, and then it's got your little kick out, your little window flashing. You know, and it's got your kick out like a drip edge on a roof. And you put, I should probably use a different color for this. You put your exterior window casing, again covering that flange, covering this up. You know, and then you're gonna have, I'm running out of colors here. So depending on how you kind of do these details, I would leave the window in because you still have properly shingled, you know, leaving a little bit of area down here because eventually the corners of these windows, they will fail. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And we're at an age where we're going to live long enough to see these things. We're going to be here again. So you don't want it to fail and come into the house and do a bunch of damage. I wouldn't pull the windows down the line. I just don't like doing it. The stuff breaks, stuff cracks. You know, I kind of view these things as like they're alive in a certain way. And they're like us. The older we get, the less we want to be moved. When I was young, let's go over here, let's do that. Now I'm like, let's go sit on the couch. Leave me alone. So, the other thing you could do is, depending on your design and what you want to do with the house, I gotta find a different color here. I have to use this one. Instead of, you know, drywalling here, you can go with, you know, wood casing. So if you decide down the line you're going to pull this window, sheathe behind it, move it out, you're taking the casing off and redoing the casing instead of busting up drywall. I do a lot of drywall repair. I absolutely hate drywall. I got really good at it. And it's just, I don't love it. Just because I don't. But, so my personal bias is if you can avoid drywall repair, avoid it as much as possible. But again, if you want to keep that window in place, because I digress, and you decide, you know, is it better this way? Okay. Add sheathing. You know, you're already going to have, I might as well use a pencil. You know, you got your tape layer here. Of course, my pencils and my lead. You know, you're taping this. I'm also exaggerating all these. So you're taping this. You know, it's back to here, back to there, and you're just adding. So you get your sheeting, and you're just trying to add on top of that your moisture layer. I'll do it like this. So it's a out, and then do the same thing down here. So you do the same thing down here. You bump your sheeting up, you put in your flashing, you know, you got your exterior window casings. So this is your layer. You had mentioned wanting to do that with zip. My concern with leaving the window and doing zip, and it's my concern with all of it, is this bit right here on the sheeting, because that end grain always sucks up moisture really bad. When you're doing this flashing detail, you always want to be mindful of that gap. Don't quote me on this. I think it's a 1/4 inch. It might even be a 1/2 inch of ability to let water out. So here's your keep water out, which we love keeping water out. Eventually it finds its way in, so you gotta let it out. Around these like critical areas, like around the cutouts for your window, you know, all that stuff that you're doing. There's a lot of ways you can skin this cat. It's a bad analogy. Why are we skinning cats? Zip got too expensive for me. So I was like, we'll zip R6. So I'm like, well, I'll just go to a regular zip. Then there were supply chain issues. We have a company here in Texas called Proseco. They make a fluid applied membrane. That would be really nice, because if you really took the time, when you're doing your sheathing to put like the Proseco down here as you wrap it up, you'd probably have to detail that before you put the sheathing on. And then you could go, you know, your rain screen, whatever you want, go from there. There's also, I'm looking over there because I wrote it down. I always mess up this name. It's called, I'm just going to call it by, the manufacturer. I can never pronounce it, but it's Hydrogap SA. It's a self-adhered, comes in these sheets, you stick it on. It's got all these little dimples on it. It acts as a rain screen, which I really like for siding. It's a product, and this is all market dependent based on pricing and availability and stuff. It's a product that when I do my like per square foot cost, because, and also, sidebar, I don't have the money to do my whole house at once. So I'm literally doing one wall. And then I like LP Smart Side. I like working with it more than Hardy. I think it's a better product, but that's also my personal opinion. And Hardy got a really bad name back in like the 90s in Wisconsin, just because of our intense winters. So personal preference, it's left me. I like LP Smart Side, and now I don't have to have like special blades. I don't have to wear a mask. I don't have to worry about, you know, people getting cancer from cutting it. It doesn't snap. I work alone a lot, or I work with, you know, one other person, and we can carry it without snapping it. And I'm just doing like the cross my fingers. Hopefully I don't change the profiles, but I'm literally can only afford to do like one wall of my house at a time. So that's why I started looking at the Proseco fluid applied, and I was going to put, the 1x3 rain screen on the edge, make sure you get that full inch penetration all the way in. And then it got me thinking recently about that 1 inch gap, because bugs, all that stuff, like I know we want the air to go in and out, but I was doing a write-up for a client that had a brick facade and they had buried, the client didn't, it's an HOA situation, but the weep holes got buried. And then there was mold exhibiting on the interior wall. And brick, stucco, stone, all that wants that like inch to inch and a half gap behind it. You'd have it, let's say, you got your moisture layer, like your brick, that's like your inch and a half gap. But when you look at brick, it's because at the very bottom, there's just the tiniest weep hole. So I think that added gap, and again, not a scientist, not an architect, is because that air needs to get through there and then spread out. Whereas if we're doing a lap siding, companies like HydroGap SA, and now even Zip has its own rain guard too, they just do a mixed pattern where it doesn't build everything out as far, which I think is going to be beneficial to you because you want to be mindful of that build out. Not only is there an aesthetic concern, I think there's also like a vapor concern. Like as it rains, you don't want that stuff coming back in, you kind of want it to go out. And the more you create that exit strategy to sheet off the outside, it's the more build out, and I think it'll look funny. So I would look into Proseco. If you decide to go with like a batten rain screen, I would talk with some people. I don't know if you need the full 1 inch. I'm, because of price, leaning towards the Benjamin Obadiah HydroGap SA self-adhered. If you look, it's got these little dimples all over it, and I think that's going to be enough, because like this house, it's had tar paper since 1970, and yeah, there's a lot of rot. There's a lot of rot, but 70s, it's 55 years old. So even adding just that little bit of ability to drain out and weep out on the SA, I think is enough. Now, that doesn't help you at all in what to do today. So what I would do, I love closed cell spray foams in very specific strategies. I think open cell spray foam has a really great place in very specific strategies. I would worry about spray foaming around the windows, because without knowing your future strategy and with the strategy I'm going to suggest, you might create a moisture sandwich. Like it might just hold moisture. So here's what I would do. After, 24 minutes, I'm finally answering your question. Hey, welcome to one of Nathan's rants. So, got your window gap. You're going to do whatever you're going to do on your interior. You want to seal this up so you can move into your friggin' house. I would go backer rod. Put your backer rod in there. I would probably, I don't know if I would caulk or not. I would go backer rod all the way around. So anything that inevitably gets in there, because again, you could make the perfect wall structure out here. And especially in Central Texas, houses move a lot. And Southern California, Bay Area, Northern California, you know, it is a seismic area, so you do have to worry about that shaking. You know, these window corners are going to crack. And they're going to allow a certain amount of water in, which is why you see a lot of builders now like building this detail where it sticks up and it comes down and then it's at an angle, and then they put like composite shims that match this angle so everything's flat, blah blah blah, because they accept that this is going to fail, let's kick the water out. So I would go backer rod, because the backer rod's going to allow a certain amount of permeability. But now you need to stop air and water, because air is going to bring water in humid climates from getting in here. 3M has a flashing tape. I would put the 3M flashing tape right here. So essentially, I should probably redraw this because this looks like a mess. Window, flange, opening, stud. That's not. Hang on. I'm going to try to make this exaggerated. That's what I want. There we go. So again, on the bottom, leaving some room. Like, don't fully caulk this. I would talk to local contractors and see how much they leave open. When I was doing windows in San Diego, we would leave like 2 little gaps, on our standard kind of like 30-inch, 36-inch wide window. We would just kind of like, and then we started just kind of caulking and then just bloop, and then leaving like a little dab of caulk. We would just, like, we used to leave a gap, and then Milgard was like, hey, just leave the whole thing open. So we started caulking just around the bottom, and then I would leave a little, I'd even take my finger and put a little swipe of caulking. So instead of like finishing it off, I would swipe it down. My thought at the time, I don't know how correct this was it's like a drip edge. Covalent bonds, water's gonna follow its own path. So that little swipe of caulking, when the water came around, it would hit that and go down. But I would do, backer rod all the way around the window, and then come in with the 3M flashing tape, and just flash it. I don't think you need to like flash it down the wall or anything, but what that does to me is eventually when you add this is not pulling the windows, you add your sheathing out here, and that's going to have your control layer out here, and then properly taped and caulked and everything. There's going to be a point of kind of entry around your windows. So if you treat the window as also a moisture vapor control layer, and you're just kind of weaving it around your window openings. So backer rod, 3M, 30-minute video, way too long, putting it on YouTube. I miss you, man.